Hi guys, welcome to Faithcast. We're here today with Bryony. Is that how you say her name?
Yeah, Bryony.
I call her Uma, so I don't really call her her name properly. So to start with, can you just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit?
I'm Bryony Dillon.
Mm-hmm.
I live at the Euroka village, the retirement village. I've been there for the last 4 years. I grew up in Queensland, joined the Air Force and moved down to Newcastle, where I met John, my husband, and from there we moved to Kingswood. I had 3 children, and and then 5 years ago my husband died, which is when I moved into Euroka village. So that's pretty well my life in a nutshell.
What's it like living in Euroka?
I love it. A couple of my children didn't really want me to move in there to start with. But with COVID coming and everything, it's the best thing. And even my daughter has now said, Mum, that's the best thing you ever did. Because with COVID, I still had people surrounding me, contact with people, where I'd have been very isolated if I'd have been on my own. Yeah. So no, it's good. I love it. I love it.
So how old were you when you moved from Queensland down to New South Wales?
20.
Big change?
I don't come from a stable family, right? My mother and father separated when I was 10. I was sent down to live with my father. And then I never heard from my mother again for 10 years until after my father died. And I was very unsettled after all that, and just living with a family. I didn't have a home of my own. And that's when I joined the Air Force, and I came down here with the Air Force.
As a nurse?
No, I'm not that clever. No, I joined as a driver.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, so I finished up back in Newcastle after training, driving ambulances and all sorts of vehicles, trucks and stuff like that.
That's way
it was
cool.
through doing that I met John.
So did you just stay here in Australia, or did you go?
No, I only stayed here in Australia. Yeah, I didn't last long enough.
What was John doing?
John was a paratrooper based at Newcastle. And I met him the first night I stepped on the base.
What?
And 12 months later we were married.
Oh, that was a love it. I was going to say, was it love at first sight?
Just about, yeah.
That's cool. Would you, like, if you didn't join the Air Force, what do you think you would have done?
Oh, good grief. I've never ever thought about that. I probably would have just stayed in clerical, which is what I have been trained for at school, in clerical. Stayed around. I really hate to think where my life would have gone, to be quite frank with you. I wasn't a Christian at the time, and neither was John at the time. But when we've looked back on our lives, which we've done quite a few times over the years, we just see God's hand there all the time. Even when I didn't know him, he still knew me and was looking after me. And, so I really don't know where I would be. I don't think I'd be as good as what I am.
Yeah. That's cool, though. That's cool that God moved you into the Air Force.
Yep. Well, I'm from Queensland and John was from South Australia, so we met at Newcastle. So.
Do you have any siblings?
I have one sister who still lives in Queensland, and she's got no conception of God or anything like that. Neither has any of her family, and I'm actually the black sheep of the family because of the fact that I am a Christian. So I'm the black sheep.
Crazy. Did you find that hard? Like, do you still have a sisterly bond with her?
Yes, we do. Because of the distance, probably not as close as what we should be. And Yeah, I'm not sure how to say our relationship, because there was that 10 years of growing up together that we had no contact. And she actually said to me once, she said, for all our mixed up relationships as young kids, she said, we've actually got a good relationship now, a pretty good relationship considering where we've both come from. Hurts me that I can't talk to her about Christ. She won't talk. She won't talk. She'll just cut you straight down. But yeah, apart from that, we have a good relationship.
That's good.
We ring every so often, and I've been up there to see her, and she hasn't come down since COVID. So I got a bone to pick with her.
That's good though, that you still have a bond even though you've had lots of differences.
Yeah.
So where was John from? South Australia, obviously.
No, John was born in Germany in 1940, so that was during the war. He had quite a few traumatic experiences during that time, and his mother managed to immigrate out here with a gentleman that was particularly kind, and so that made that relationship wasn't very good. And eventually John's mother separated from him, and there was just her and his sister at the time. And he joined the army as a young man, and went to Malaya, and had a good time over there in the army. Who doesn't?
Yeah.
And then when he came back, he joined the paratroopers, and they were stationed at Newcastle. And that's how come he was at an Air Force base, because he was a paratrooper.
So after you guys got married, did you go back to Germany at all?
We did. We eventually went back to Germany. We met his cousin. He still had a cousin over in Germany. We met him, Michael, and we stayed with them for a few weeks. That was interesting, and he was still very Bavarian, loud and opinionated and everything. But it was good, and we didn't get to see where John was born, because it's now Poland. And for a German with his background, he was warned it could be a bit difficult to get in. So we didn't do that. We just went and took to Germany itself. And yeah, it was I think he enjoyed it.
Did you guys go back with the kids?
No, it was just John and I. No, we left the kids at home.
That's good though, for him to go back and just be able to touch ground.
Yeah, he enjoyed it, and converse with his cousin and meet some cousins he hadn't seen since he was little. So that was nice for him.
Was it different for you?
Yes, I got sick of nobody speaking English.
Yeah, I was going to ask that.
And I actually found a bookshop over there, and where I could buy an English written book. And I thought, well, at least I can read, because I can't watch TV, I can't do anything. But we had a couple of side trips on our own as well, so that sort of broke up the difficulty.
Yeah, that's cool.
But they were very, very hospitable and very loving, and and it was good for John to go back to his roots.
Do you now still keep in touch with any of them, or
They've died?
What?
Yeah. His cousin that we stayed with, he actually died about a year and a half, 2 years after we were there.
What?
Yeah. So no, I don't have any contact now.
That's a God thing for you guys to go back and stay with him and meet him and everything.
Yeah.
That's cool, but sad, but cool.
Yep.
I'm the same. So then, how did you become a Christian?
How did we become a Christian? Well, we had John being in the army. We were stationed at, we were living at the time at Raymond Terrace, and we were not Christians at the time, though I had some sort of very liberal Sunday school upbringing, to the point where I wanted my daughter baptised. And Deidre was just 12 months old at this time, and we had her baptised in the Church of England church in Nelson Bay. But I was pregnant with Sean, and John came home from work one night, and he said, we need to talk. and he said, I'd like to sign on for Vietnam. And my heart just plummeted. And we thought about it and talked about it and everything, and I took the attitude, I can say no, you can't go, and then my husband resent me for the rest of his life because I've stopped him from doing something he wanted to do. Or I can let him go and he could survive and fall off the gangplank coming home. So I have got to just trust. At the stage I wasn't trusting in God because I didn't know that aspect of my life. Anyway, he signed up for Vietnam. I think I was about 6 months pregnant.
Oh, yeah.
And I was due to have my eldest son in the December, and we got shifted down to Holsworthy to 7RAR, and that was with Deidre and being pregnant, and we'd been there a week. I knew nobody. John's mother lived down there, but that was a dicey relationship. And I went to pick him up from the base one night to be told by the officer to come in. And I thought, I can't, I'm in my ragtag house. But anyway, I had to. And I was told that John was then in Concord Hospital after taking a turn at work. And that led to 6 weeks of John being in Concord Hospital and me going backwards and forwards and trying to accommodate his mother at the same time and being pregnant with a little one. And he was discharged medically unfit on our wedding anniversary on the 3rd of September 1969. And then we made the process from there to come to live at where we were in Kingswood. But in the meantime, John's mum she was a Christian, and she asked her minister, would please visit my son in hospital. So he did. And then after John came out of hospital, after this chap visiting him for quite a while, it was a Reverend Reinsdorf, and we got a phone call, would you like to come to church? It was Christmas Day. And John came to me and he said, would you like to go? And I said, no, I wouldn't. I've got an 8-day-old baby. I've got a less than 2-year-old daughter. You want me to get up at the crack of dawn and go to a church full of people I don't know?
Yeah.
And he said, yes, I would like that. So we did. And so on the 25th of December on 1969, we stepped into the Reformed Church, then known as the Reformed Church of St Mary's, which is now Hope. And our lives turned around from there.
That's cool. That's way cool. I suppose though, like in the moment, you'd be like, why?
I wasn't happy.
Happening? Like,
well, we lived in Liverpool, and St Mary's is a long way, and you're travelling with all these babies with a mother-in-law that didn't particularly like me all that much. But anyway,
that's cool though. That's cool to hear how God was like working in your life.
Yeah.
Even at that point.
Oh, look back. There's so many things that have happened. Just how we got our house. I mean, where after he was discharged from the army, it was, well, here, get out. And we still had to get a job, and we were trying to buy a house, and we didn't have quite enough money. And we were $800 short to everything. And Melbourne comes one day and we opened a cheque up from the army, $800, exactly to the penny. I mean, that just blows you away. And of course, we're new Christians by then. I mean, I wouldn't say we were Christians by then. We were stumbling around.
Oh yeah.
We used to go to the then Profession of Faith courses then to to talk about it with other people and with the minister and everything. And we actually spent a couple of years doing that before we actually made the final commitment. Yeah, this is what we want to do. And and I think Sean was 12 months old by the time we did our profession of faith.
What was the decider for that?
For me, it was, I'd obviously had some on and off up teachings and things when I was little. I still remember lovely neighbours used to come and get me and take me to Sunday school. I think it was just to get me out of Dad's hair. But yeah, so some of that. And I do remember taking in the Church of England church back then, it was you took communion.
Oh yeah.
You did your communion. And I remember that one stage I lived there long enough that I did that. So there was obviously some teachings in my background that I found it easier to understand where God was. And like I said, I had that in me that I had to have my daughter baptised. Had to have her. I didn't fully understand why, but now I do. And yeah, so, but for John, he was more, he wanted to know the ins and outs of everything. So it took him. He didn't just accept anything at face value.
Yeah.
He dug into it and questioned, and that's why the minister said after the first year, he said, I think we need another year, John. So, of course, we did the other year, and so then we did it together then.
Oh, yeah. So was his mum a Christian before she came to Australia? I don't know.
Look, I don't fully understand. I don't fully understand a lot of John, and I don't want to say yes or no. I don't think you were going to be a Christian under Hitler.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask.
Yeah,
was Christianity actually a thing at that time in Germany?
That my history and my knowledge is not good enough to say that, but I do know that while she was bringing John up, there wasn't any Christianity in his life. But when she came to St Mary's, then she did. She kept walking past the Reformed Church and watching it being built. And when it was finished, she went in, and then she's recommitted her life to Christ and everything there. And that's how it come. That's how that was. So yeah. So then she was from then on.
Yeah.
When she was younger, and I don't know enough of her history because she died. She died quite young, actually.
Yeah. That's cool though, to be able to just walk past the church and.
And it kept calling her in.
It kept calling her in.
Kept calling her in. She eventually went in.
So how long did you stay at St Mary's?
Oh goodness, what was it? Deidre was 2 when Sean was 2 months old. So from say 1970 until 1970 to 2018, not 19. I lived it.
Long time.
So about 50 odd years. I was there. We were there in the same house. Yep.
That's a really long time. Now that I'm
well, both John and I had backgrounds of moving a lot, constantly moving for whatever reason. And for us, that was just being in the one place. That was really special.
Yeah.
It was really special for us not to be moving around.
Yeah. So what did you two do after you left the RAF? What jobs did you go in? Did you go back to work, or did you just stay home with the kids?
No, I didn't go back to work straight away. John got a job with the Riverston Meat Company, which is no longer operating, but he got there in the pay clerk section, and he was a pay clerk at Riverston Meat Company. When I had the little ones, I wasn't working, and then I think when the kids got a bit older, I then worked for a little while as the secretary to the accountant at Riverston Meat Company, but then it closed, didn't it? And it wasn't my fault. The Rivers to Meat Company closed, and then John struggled for a little bit finding work after that, and he finished up getting a job with the State Debt Recovery Office in Sydney. So he used to travel into Sydney, and then I went and did a medical terminology course, and then started working for doctors and spent about 20 odd years working for doctors.
That's crazy. So you would have seen, like, in New Life, I reckon, more particularly, we'll just talk about New Life. I've never been in the same areas. The changes here.
Yes, definitely. St Mary's, when we were there, was a very traditional type church, very, very structured, which was good for us to start with, because John was also somebody that needed structure as well. And so for us, that was really, really good. And then the change in our lives came when our children all started to leave St Mary's for different reasons. They still continued with their faith, but they just weren't happy under the regime of the church at the time. And we were a bit disappointed with that, because, I mean, we thought our children would be with us all the time, but so we started going to other churches and everything, like visiting them where they were. And then my youngest son, Glenn, got a call from the New Life Christian Church to come here, and he got the opportunity to come here and work as a paid youth worker, which, so then, of course, they started coming to New Life, which I wasn't happy with at the time, because I thought my son might come back to St Mary's Church, but that wasn't in God's plan. And it was in my plan, but it wasn't in God's plan. And anyway, as the time went on, St Mary's was a vacant church for quite a few years. And in their calling process, the gentleman that they were calling, we personally didn't feel was quite the right person for St Mary's, and that St Mary's was just calling anybody just to get a minister, and we didn't feel that was the, like, New Life went for years until we found the right, and we just didn't feel that St Mary's was, we could be wrong, but that's what we felt. So then we started coming more to New Life because our son and his family were here, and it was John. He said, Bryony, he said, I think we need to think about changing churches. And that was a scary thing for me, in the fact that I'm not comfortable where I don't know people, very uncomfortable. So for me to leave where I was very comfortable to come to a whole pile of people that you didn't really know, that was difficult. And we eventually made the decision to leave St Mary's and come here, particularly when Glenn was then being trained up to be a minister here, and which is really good, because by doing that, John actually got to hear Glenn preach.
Oh, yeah, that's cool.
He did.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Oh.
No, all right. It's all right.
Yeah, because it was very special, him being able to see his son preach, and he was very, very proud of his son. Very proud. Proud of all his kids, but there was a special with the fact that, you know, they could talk about God together and they'd have debates together. And I still remember one night when Glenn and Beck, maybe I shouldn't have said their names.
No, you're right. Glenn's been interviewed. That's all good.
We're challenging to prayer.
Yeah.
And they get his father to put his glasses on the floor and put his foot on it. And he said, if you pray, they'll come. Well, guess what? His father didn't do it. So, but yeah, they used to have all sorts of, you know, real topic discussions on faith and God and what it meant and everything. And Yeah, it did. And then, of course, when John got sick, I think that was the basis of how John was so strong.
Yeah.
He never questioned why. It was God's will, and that was it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's cool to hear how over, what was that, like 50 years, his faith went from being very teeny to just being like this big, tall tree.
We were actually introduced to a program called Emmaus many years ago. It was actually through our daughter. And then both our children have been to it, but it was from there. I've come to realise now, back when we were new Christians and everything, very much, it was intellectual knowledge, very intellectual. You know, you learned everything sort of. And this Emmaus movement, when you went there, it showed you. It took it from here down to here. Took it down there, showed you what a really, truly loving relationship Jesus is. It's not just what you know.
Yeah.
It's how you live your life. It's how you react to different things in your life as well. And it just taught us the love of Christ. We were shown that, and that was the big change for us.
Is that program still around? Do you know?
No, it actually folded here in New South Wales anyway. I don't know where it used to be in other states as well. It was a 4-day weekend that you went. It was very intense. And when you came out, you just felt like Christ had been walking with you all weekend. It was you. But it became... People get committed in their own churches and then they haven't got the time to commit to others. So it had actually, can I say it had seen its use by date?
You can say whatever you want to say.
Yeah, it just slowly folded, but oh gosh, it did some good work while it was still around. And wrong things came out of it too. People misinterpreted it. But for John and I and my family, the Emmaus walk was really, really special and brought us from head knowledge to heart knowledge.
Which I think is like critical. So actually, the reason why you're sitting here is because of the comment that you made at the women's ministry meeting. And I was like, yep, I'm going to interview you just because you said that. And we were talking about how church is relational. Do you remember?
No.
You said like, and Stephen was like, oh. And it was just like how you were saying the same thing. Lots of people think that church is head knowledge, but it's not. It's a relationship.
It's the heart.
And I was just like, yep, you're ready to be interviewed. I'm going to ask you when I see you next. Because I think, like, I'm not even having a go, Oma, but sometimes people in your age bracket are still stuck on the it's head knowledge. It's not relationship. You can't be in a relationship. Why not? Why can't I be in a relationship?
Yep.
And sometimes that trickles down to the younger generations. And then it just, I've seen, not in this church, but in other churches, where it causes clashes and breaks churches apart.
Oh, of course it does. It splits everything wide. And I'm so pleased when I've seen now over the years that Hope, which was a very intellectual one, has now done a big turnaround with who they've got now leading them, and they've now becoming more of a relational church. Cool. So that really pleases me because you'd like to see things, you know, finding their footing, finding what's the most important, what's the most important thing, and it's not who you are, or what you do. It's between you and Christ. It's between you and Christ.